3 years. That's how long it had been since I last saw Emily, my wife. 3 long, silent years of unanswered calls, unreturned texts, and empty promises. My name is Ryan, and I used to live in San Diego, California. Back then, Emily and I seemed inseparable. We had a life that everyone envied: friends, travel, laughter, and those quiet moments when you felt like you truly belonged. But it all fell apart in a blink. One day she left. No explanation. No warning. Just silence. I tried to reach out. Of course. Messages, emails, calls. Ignored. Friends whispered that she had moved on, that I should too, but my heart refused to accept it. I went about my life quietly, burying the hurt under routines, work, and small distractions, yet part of me always held on, wondering if she'd ever come back. Then came last weekend. I decided to take a break from the city and went to a quiet beach town north of San Diego. The sun was low, casting a golden glow over the sand. I hadn't expected much, just a few hours to think, to breathe, and maybe to feel some peace. I hadn't noticed her at first. Emily walked along the shoreline, laughing softly, the same laugh that had once made my chest tighten with love. But she wasn't alone. She was with someone else, tall, confident, the kind of man who exudes charm effortlessly. My stomach twisted, a mix of anger, disbelief, and curiosity settling in. I didn't approach. I stayed hidden, watching as the interaction unfolded. Emily's expression was different now. Relaxed, happy, yet I noticed a subtle flicker of something that caught me off guard. She glanced around, then her eyes landed on me, and in that moment, the smile faded. 3 years of silence, 3 years of distance, and just one look was enough. Her face broke, not with sorrow, not with regret, but shock. A mix of emotions I couldn't fully read, but it was enough to know that my presence had disrupted the carefully curated world she had built without me. I walked closer, casually, letting her notice my stride, my composure. I wasn't the man she left behind, hollow, uncertain, unsure of himself. No, I was different now. Stronger, confident, and accompanied by someone whose presence made it clear that I had moved on in ways she never imagined. The woman at my side was Olivia, a friend who had supported me through the worst of my heartbreak. Smart, witty, and radiant, she wasn't just company. She symbolized the life I had rebuilt while Emily assumed I was still lost. And as Emily's eyes widened, the color draining from her face, I realized something crucial. She thought she had left me broken, but I had returned stronger, and in a way that hurt her more than words ever could. I approached slowly, letting the sand crunch beneath my feet, each step deliberate, measured. Emily's eyes were fixed on us now, her jaw tight, her usual composure faltering. The man beside her noticed too, stepping slightly closer, a protective edge in his posture. But I didn't rush. I let the moment stretch, savoring the tension, letting the surprise and confusion settle in like a wave. "Ryan," Emily finally whispered, her voice shaking slightly. She hadn't expected this. None of her plans had accounted for me being here, standing tall, calm, unshaken. And she certainly hadn't expected me to be with someone else, someone vibrant, confident, and undeniably part of my new life. I nodded, offering a small, polite smile. "Emily, it's been a while." Her eyes flicked to Olivia, then back to me. The unspoken question was clear. "Who is she?" I allowed the pause to hang between us. Olivia's quiet presence beside me said everything without a word. This wasn't about confrontation. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, about demonstrating the life I had built while she assumed I was still waiting, broken and vulnerable. Emily tried to speak, but the words faltered. Her ex-assured smile, once confident, now seemed like a mask. I didn't expect. I thought. I cut her off gently but firmly. "Emily, 3 years is a long time. I've learned a lot, and so have you, I imagine. But some things are clear. Life moves on and people move with it." Her face paled further, the realization sinking in. The shock wasn't just that I was here. It was that I had thrived, that I had reclaimed my life in a way she hadn't anticipated. Olivia laughed lightly, an easy, confident sound that seemed to echo in the space between us. I could see it now. Emily's mask cracking, the facade of control dissolving in real time. I felt no anger, no desire for confrontation. Instead, there was a quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes when you weather betrayal, heartbreak, and silence, and emerge unbroken. She had assumed my absence meant weakness, that her choices had no consequences. But now she was seeing firsthand the result of underestimating someone she had left behind. We exchanged a few more words, polite, measured, but I could tell she was rattled. The man she had been with no longer mattered. Her confidence had crumbled simply because the narrative she had believed, that I was still hers to manipulate, was gone. She had lost control, and in that moment, it was clear. I had reclaimed my life, my dignity, and my peace. As we walked away from the beach later, Olivia beside me, the sun dipping low on the horizon, I realized something vital. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't in confrontation or argument. It's in transformation, in showing up stronger than expected, in living fully, and in letting those who once underestimated you witness the life they assumed they had destroyed be why the next day, Emily was restless. Mutual friends began messaging me, curious, shocked, asking what had happened on the beach. The story spread quietly, like ripples in water. Her face had gone cold, her composure shattered, and I could see through her messages that she was scrambling to understand how things had shifted so dramatically in just one afternoon. I didn't reply immediately. I let her questions linger, unanswered, because the most effective statement was my absence. I had shown up, but I hadn't begged, explained, or pleaded. I had demonstrated a simple truth. I had moved on, and she no longer held any control over my life. Later that week, I received a message from a mutual friend, Lisa. Emily is asking if you're okay. She's shaken. I smiled, sipping my coffee, knowing that the shock I had seen on her face was just the beginning. She had expected me to be weak, broken, and lost. She hadn't counted on resilience, patience, or the quiet strength that comes from rebuilding one's life without seeking immediate revenge. Olivia and I started planning a weekend trip, a small celebration of the life I had reclaimed. We laughed, joked, and planned with freedom that Emily hadn't seen in years. And the contrast was undeniable. The woman who once had my full attention, who believed she could manipulate and control, now watched from the sidelines as I thrived, as my world expanded without her interference. When I finally glanced back toward the beach where it all unfolded, I noticed Emily standing at a distance, watching silently. Her expression was complex, regret, realization, and a trace of what I can only describe as awe. I didn't look back. I didn't wave. I simply continued my life, step by step, alongside someone who had been part of my healing, my resurgence. It was then I understood the ultimate lesson. The strongest statement after betrayal isn't confrontation. It's transformation. It's the ability to reclaim dignity, to rebuild, to thrive in ways that words alone cannot convey. Emily had assumed she had power through absence and deception, but power isn't given. It's earned through action, patience, and resilience. Weeks later, our mutual friends would still comment on that day. They'd recount the shock on her face, the subtle power shift, and the quiet victory of someone who had been underestimated for far too long. And in every story retold, I heard a single truth resonating clearly. Betrayal doesn't define the betrayed. It defines the choices we make afterward. Olivia and I walked along the shoreline again, sunlight glinting off the waves, wind tousling our hair. Life was full, bright, and unshakable. And somewhere behind us, Emily faced the consequences of her absence, her arrogance, and her misjudgment. The lesson was complete. I had reclaimed my life, and in doing so, I had shown that the ultimate revenge is not in anger, it's in becoming unbreakable.